Welcome. So this is going to be a collective. I actually recorded the collective and then realized that I had been reading this one specific card wrong. So I had to record. Okay, so let's get started. Let's see what you get. It says, ask yourself this question: is my attitude worth catching? Right? So that means, like, are you, is your attitude, is it contagious, and is your attitude something that people thrive on and is positive? Okay, and so I had already shuffled, and I had already, as I have explained, had already gotten the card, so I'm not going to shuffle, but I think it's an important message. So you have Samhain, right, and death, okay, and then you have air and imagination. All right, so I thought this said shaman, and then I finally read it correctly, and it didn't. So this Samhain, and please forgive me if I'm saying it incorrectly, is it's the Celtics New Year, okay? And then it's the end of the summer and the end of a harvest season. So what this is, okay, and this is also represents Scorpio. It represents a rebirth. It represents an ending of a cycle. Very interesting, because we're in September, so going into October, which will be Halloween. The Celtics celebrated the Samhain, right? Celebration was a Celtic celebration. So a lot of like Druidism, Wicca, Wiccan, I think is what it's called as well. And so it was in Hallows Eve, okay? So it was the eve of Halloween, but it sort of went into Halloween, and then it was very interesting because I did a whole research paper on this when I was in college, which was very interesting, and I never knew that I'd be doing this later. So what happened is that when Christianity came over, or not came over, but when Christianity started taking over, instead what they did is that they meshed the cultures together, and so they didn't want to undo the Druidism, okay, culture, which was the Samhain, right? And I'll tell you what that is in a minute. So they started incorporating things from that in order to transition the culture, and in order to be able to to indoctrinate the people right into Christianity, because they were not Christians. They didn't believe in Christ, and they believed in the afterlife. And so the Samians, the Druids, believed that that the dead would be coming in Hallows Eve, which is, I think, the 31st, or I think it's like the 30th, October 30th, and it's the eve of that. Okay, so I'm not sure on that, because it's Hallows Eve is interesting, so I think it's Halloween. And so so what they did is that they believed it. And so what that happened is that they also felt, if I remember correctly, that the dead would be coming for them. So what they did is that they tried to get dressed, and that's where the Halloween costumes come into play. They used to have to, they used to dress up so they could confuse the spirits, right? The spirits from the afterlife that came over. And with that also, so they would favor them, and they wouldn't be ill-favored. They used to leave them things to eat. So that's why, or they used to leave offerings for their ancestors when they sort of came in, from the afterlife. And so very, very interesting. So that sort of goes on with Christianity, right? And so the Christians, the Catholics in particular, have All Saints Day, which is November 1st, right after Hallows Eve, and Halloween, right? And so then Hallows Eve went into Halloween, right? And then the Day of the Dead is on the 2nd, which is really is it the All Saints Day? So All Saints Day is like I think the 1st of November, and then I think the Day of the Dead, which is a Mexican culture, okay, is November 2nd. And so what they do in Mexico, and it's a beautiful celebration, what they do in Mexico is that they go over to the to the cemetery, and they clean the lápidas, the headstones, okay, and it was a huge celebration in honor of their ancestors and their deceased. And I remember for my grandmother, grandmother, who I never knew on my mother's side. My granddad was widowed at a very young age, and with my mother very, very young. And so I remember going for El Dia de los Muertos, for the Day of the Dead, which is November 2nd. And he had this beautiful, because she died very young, possibly in her 30s, I believe. So he had this beautiful headstone that was like white marble, and it was in Mexico. And so we used to go, the Day of the Dead, and they used to sell sweets and like candied apples, but they weren't candied apples. They were like little tejocotes is what they're called. They're little like apples like this, and they used to be like candied apples, and then Day of the Dead bread. And it was just a really incredible festivity. And that's when everybody sort of cleaned out, the headstones in honor of their deceased, and then they would leave them whatever it is that they would create an altar, and they would leave whatever it is that the deceased liked. And so my sister does this beautiful Day of the Dead altar for all our deceased relatives. So the Druids are the first that started, and then of course the Christians came over, and then of course the culture, which is the Day of Dead. So it's sort of all mixed, but really the Celtics are the ones that started it, and it really was to really sort of like fool the dead. Okay, so this is about a rebirth. And what this very long story is about, and this is what you get because I'm a teacher, right? And I had already done research on it, is that this is a full rebirth of a new harvesting, a new season for you. And so whatever it is that you've harvested, whatever it is that you've sowed, you will be harvesting. And mostly it's going to be incredible, abundance, okay? And then so it's an ending of summer, going into fall, and it's a beautiful season of a new era and a new life. Okay, and so for Druids, it was the beginning of their new year. So this really is the beginning of a new life for you. Not only do I feel like it's a new year, but it's a new life. So lots of rebirth, lots of candle magic, lots of inner work with rebirth, with ancestors, with spirit guides. So beautiful. And then you have air, which is imagination. So I feel that your harvest right after summer, and we're finishing off summer. I think we start, I don't know if we already started fall. I think we start fall in mid September. So we're starting off a new harvest that's going to be very bountiful. And so that's so that's what it says about here. Is your is my attitude worth catching? So it's about really having an incredible attitude going into this incredible, very abundant time. And for esoteric, and for this, whatever it is that we believe, ancestors or whatever, this is our time. And this is about the celebration of harvesting, of coming into a very abundant harvest after we have really done the work all year. So hope this collective message helped. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would very much love for you to help me grow it. And for those of you who have always supported me, thank you so much. Namaste, love and light.